Civilizations on this planet have arose and fell through the course of thousands of years. How they arose and what caused the demise of these great civilizations is somewhat a mystery. We date time back to the dynastic period of Egypt as a marker point in history, even though it is becoming more globally accepted that there was lost civilizations who predate the Egyptians by many thousands of years, dating back past the Great Flood. Now, what if there was a group of survivors of the Great Flood that went on to re-inhabit the region surrounding Egypt? This began a chain of command that has spread through history from the very first pharaoh to the secret society that runs this planet today. Wait till you hear this. There is no real leader of this planet, is there? But there are a group of leaders, and the so-called leaders of each country are surrounded by people who advise them what to do and say. In this sense, the president's kings and queens are really only the pawns in the grand scheme of things. If a decision is to be approved, then there are literally hundreds of votes from individuals who each in turn have a whole number of people weighing up the final voting decision. So who is really in charge? In the US, for example, there is a lot of symbolism that tips the ancient Egyptians that we are familiar with, from dollar bills to giant obelisk and the Freemasons, but even this can only be dated back to around the 18th century. When you consider the sheer landmass of the Soviet Union alone at the height of its power, and the fact that the entire planet could fit into this landmass with the exception of Canada, then you find it hard to find evidence here of a secret society because in itself, Russia is just this. When we look into Russia, it is easy to see a country under heavy control, but also very secretive in its process of how the country is run or what kind of dominance Russia has over the rest of the world. It is enormous. But even here we see evidence dating back to Egypt. In fact, Russia is so mysterious that it may be the secret society we are all obsessed with. In Greek mythology, there were members of the second generation of divine beings, descending from the primordial deities and preceding the Olympians. Based on Mount Osiris, the Titans most famously included the first 12 children of Gaia, Mother Earth, and Uranus, Father Sky. They ruled during the legendary Golden Age and also comprised the first pantheon of Greek deities. The first 12 Titans were the females. Titans were before gods. They lived in the far north on the territory of Russia. They were called Atlanteans, those who hold the sky, since they lived in the far north where the earth meets with the sky. Since Atlanteans were older than Greek gods and they lived in Russia, this means that Russian Aryans are more ancient than Greek gods and Greek culture in general. In fact, Greek myths directly say that Greek Olympian gods descended from Atlanteans of Russia. But we must also consider China. Thousands of years ago, it was the Chinese who led the world in development and ambition, but somehow they got bogged down in their ways after such a giant leap forward. Perhaps this was the case that they lost their divine link, just like we see in Egypt or in Iraq. But the history of the Chinese is in that of the longest continuous civilization on Earth today, 3,500 years of written history. And even 3,500 years ago, China's civilization was old. This in itself is discouraging to the student, particularly if we think of history as a baffling catalog of who superseded somebody, who succeeded somebody, and so on. Until the Opium War of 1840, the European merchants and voyagers who reached the distant land of China had looked upon the Chinese with a good deal of awe as a people of superior culture. They still had much the same attitudes as Marco Polo, who, in the 13th century, had told the people of Italy that China had a much more centralized and efficient system of government than European countries had. Anyway, guys, this is turning into a bit of a history lesson here in terms of a secret shadow group that controls the Earth. It is hard pushed to say definitely that there is one that controls the entire Earth. We could go on and include the Sumerians, the Mongols, and go deep into ancient Indian history, but we would be here for days, so let's see if there is an underground group that controls the Western civilization. We have already mentioned that there is a lot of dialogue that takes place when there is a decision to be made in the US, Canada, or the UK. We call this democracy, right? But all democracy means is that it is controlled by the majority of its members. This doesn't include ordinary people, so we are in fact ruled over, told what to eat, told to be normal, or face exclusion from the society that we call freedom. But does it work for you? If a secret group controls America, then you don't actually know about it. Why? Because it is done in secret, and the government, the Illuminati, etc., are all just manifested into reality to draw your attention away from this fact, right? This is a family of conspiracy theories based on the notion that real and actual political power resides not with politically elected representatives, but with private individuals who are exercising power behind the scenes, beyond the scrutiny of democratic institutions. If true, then the official elected governments is subservient to the shadow government, which is the true executive power. Perhaps the true elite are exactly that, the wealthiest of our world. Wealth gained through generations and dating back into ancient times. Knowledge that is passed through a family bloodline, oaths that are taken, and secrets to remain much like the royal family of England. Even though they are constantly in the limelight, they seldom say very little of their interest, deflecting wealth with charitable causes and work towards the good of humanity. How much influence does the Queen have over Parliament, you have to wonder. This is the very Queen, after all, who sacked Winston Churchill. Just a thought. Then there is the Bilderberg group meetings. Now, these are strange in terms of a shadow group influencing the world. The group is considering the creation of a one world government, according to investigative journalist Daniel Estulin, with a single global marketplace policed by one world army and financially regulated by a World Bank using one global currency. The group's major objectives are centralized control of all foreign and domestic policies, a new world order with no middle class, just rulers and servants, one international identity and one set of universal values, mind control of the world's population, imposing a universal legal system, and making NATO the world's military. This group of around 150 very wealthy families from Europe and the US have met annually since 1954, and they discuss things in secret, no press, no information leakage. The members are free to do what they want with the information gathered as long as it does not implement the group or its meetings. It is strange to think that this takes place and only considers Western civilization. You have to wonder as to what extent these meetings have on the development of our countries and the ways in which they are being guided, as well as influencing the global economy and the central banks of Europe and America. It also has a stranglehold on us all and halts individual progress towards wealth and truth, and inevitably creating debt and poverty for most of the population. Most of the world's wealth is in the hands of a few families that have influenced modern history. These families make up for something like 0.01% of all the world's population, yet it is possible they have been responsible for every major event on every part of the globe. The Rothschilds are considered the most influential of this elite group, influencing global politics, inciting wars, and articulating most of the world's financial crisis. The Rothschild family has its origin in the 18th century Germany. The founding members of this family were Jewish bankers who dealt primarily with the nobility. They went on to establish a banking family and international significance, stretching beyond international borders to every major European power. The family has been in control of the world's wealth for centuries, and their influence reaching far beyond every level of order and power, profiting on a major level from the suffering of hundreds of millions. In 1770, the family formed the Illuminati in Germany and proceeded with an ideology that would spread throughout history. Bavarian government tried to warn all of the heads of states and churches throughout Europe by publishing the details of the Illuminati plot in a document entitled The Original Writings of the Order and Sect of the Illuminati. This was ignored. Despite the warning issued by the Bavarian government, the French Revolution began in 1789 and concluded in 1799 with the enactment of a new constitution and various laws that expelled the church's influence. A year later, the Rothschild family acquired control over a nation's money when Alexander Hamilton, an agent of the family in George Washington's cabinet, set up a central bank, First Bank of the United States. The Rothschild family are Zionist Jews. Zionists believe in taking over any country to get its people believing in the Jewish faith by any means necessary. They have ensured that the most powerful people in the world are Jewish like them. This has been achieved by intermarriage. In Jewish culture, if a woman is Jewish, then her children are Jews by birth. Conspiracy theorists speculate that Catherine, the current Duchess of Cambridge and wife of Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge, is a Jewish lady since her mother, Madame Goldsmith, is Jewish as well. This means their son, Prince George, is Jewish. If he takes over the throne as King George, he will be a Jewish Zionist king on the most powerful throne in the world. With this much power, any country in the world will be his for the taking. If he decides to take over the Muslim countries, for example, in the name of the Jewish religion, then he can easily turn the world into a single religion with him as the head. Remembering that Sir Evelyn de Rothschild is the current financial advisor of the British royal family, the Rothschild influence will extend into the future King George's rule. The Rothschilds' current wealth, in its lowest estimation, is over the $1,000 trillion region. It is crazy to think that there is so much going on in this world regarding domination and shadow control, but there is little doubt that it is in fact happening. This is dating back right through history, probably since Atlantis and the Great Flood, down to all the gold obtained by the Spanish as they looted South America. There are just so many levels that this could be on, and by the way, we never even mentioned the alien agenda. We're going to leave it at this for the moment as we ponder the next part of this viewer's choice video. You can let us know if the information we chose to accept here made any sense as to the point we were trying to make. It is just too hard to say. Yeah, that's the secret world order, because as Westerners, we can only really consider this part of the world, China, Russia, and even Korea, have their own independent order of society that can be traced all the way through history.